In the vast emptiness of deep space, where every breath is a gift and every second counts, a routine mission turns into a deadly race against time. When the life-giving air begins to vanish, leaving only the cold vacuum behind, for astronauts must confront their darkest fears and deepest instincts. With limited resources, dwindling oxygen, and the unforgiving void just inches away, can they solve the mystery before their final breath? This is a story of survival, sacrifice, and the unbreakable human spirit. Will they make it back alive? Subscribe now to witness the ultimate test of courage in Last Breath Countdown Dash. The hum of the ship's systems was constant, a soothing lullaby that had become as familiar as breathing itself. For months, the crew of the EOS Dash, a state-of-the-art exploration vessel, had drifted through the endless expanse of space, charting star systems and collecting data for humanity's ever-expanding understanding of the cosmos. But tonight, something was different. The subtle vibrations beneath their feet fell off, like the ship itself was holding its breath. It began with a flicker, a single light on the central console winking out for no apparent reason. Then came the faint hiss, almost imperceptible at first, blending seamlessly with the ambient noise of the vessel. Only when the oxygen level indicator dipped below its usual threshold did anyone take notice. The realization hit them simultaneously. There was a breach somewhere, invisible but deadly, siphoning away their most precious resource. Panic didn't set in immediately. It rarely did in situations like this, but the weight of the situation pressed down on them all the same. The clock had started ticking. As the initial shock wore off, each member of the crew instinctively fell into their roles. Lieutenant Harper, the ship's engineer, moved toward the engineering bay with purpose, her mind racing through possible causes. Could it be a micrometeorite impact? A structural failure? Or perhaps something far more sinister? Commander Vega, ever the strategist, remained in the cockpit, analyzing the ship's telemetry and calculating worst-case scenarios. Dr. Lin, the medical officer, began preparing emergency oxygen masks, ensuring they were within reach should the situation escalate. Ensign Carter, the youngest and least experienced of the group, struggled to keep his composure, his hands trembling slightly as he scrolled through diagnostic reports. The air inside the ship already felt thinner, harder to draw into their lungs. Subtle signs of fatigue crept into their movements, a silent reminder of the stakes at hand. They had mere hours to identify and fix the problem, or face an unthinkable fate. The tension in the air grew palpable as the crew exchanged glances, their expressions betraying a mixture of determination and dread. Each knew the importance of staying calm under pressure, yet the enormity of the challenge weighed heavily on their minds. The ship's AI, programmed to assist with routine tasks, offered little help, its algorithms unable to pinpoint the source of the leak. Harper muttered under her breath as she reviewed logs, searching for anomalies that might explain the sudden drop in oxygen levels. Meanwhile, Vega contacted Earth Command, hoping for guidance or support. Static filled the transmission, a stark reminder of their isolation. The silence that followed was deafening. As the minutes ticked by, the reality of their predicament became impossible to ignore. They were alone, adrift in the void, and the fragile bubble of life they called home was slowly leaking away. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The monitors displayed standard readings, the engines thrummed steadily, and the artificial gravity held firm. Yet, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Lieutenant Harper, the ship's engineer, was the first to act. She moved methodically through the corridors, her boots clicking against the metal flooring, scanning for anomalies. Her tablet showed minor fluctuations in pressure near the cargo bay, but nothing conclusive. Meanwhile, Commander Vega stood in the cockpit, staring at the oxygen gauge. He ran calculations in his head, estimating how long they could survive if the leak wasn't sealed. The numbers weren't promising. Dr. Lin, the medical officer, began preparing contingency plans, pulling up schematics of the ship's ventilation system. Even the youngest member of the team, Ensign Carter, felt the tension mounting. His hands trembled slightly as he double-checked the emergency protocols. None of them spoke aloud, but their shared unease filled the air like static electricity. They knew what was at stake. Each passing minute brought them closer to disaster. Harper's investigation led her to the cargo bay, a sprawling chamber filled with crates of supplies and equipment. She activated her headlamp, its beam cutting through the dimness as she searched for signs of damage. The faint hissing sound grew louder here, confirming her suspicions. Somewhere nearby, oxygen was escaping into the void. She tapped a sensor onto the wall, watching as it transmitted data to her tablet. The results were alarming. The pressure differential indicated a significant leak, larger than initially estimated. Harper relayed the findings to Vega, who immediately ordered a full diagnostic sweep of the ship. Lynn joined Harper shortly after, carrying portable analyzers to measure gas composition. Together, they worked in silence, their movements precise and deliberate. Carter remained in the cockpit, monitoring oxygen levels and relaying updates to the others. Time was slipping away, and the more they uncovered, the more complex the issue became. It wasn't just a simple puncture or faulty seal. It was systemic, pervasive, and dangerously unpredictable. As the crew delved deeper into the mystery, the psychological toll of the situation became evident. Harper's normally steady hands faltered as she adjusted tools, her frustration mounting with each failed attempt to locate the source of the leak. Lynn, ever the optimist, tried to maintain a sense of calm, but even her composed demeanor began to crack under the strain. Vega, burdened by the responsibility of leadership, wrestled with guilt over his inability to protect his crew. And Carter, overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation, struggled to find his footing amidst the chaos. The air inside the ship felt thinner now, harder to draw into their lungs. Fatigue crept in, slowing their reactions and clouding their thoughts. Despite their training, the stress of the situation was taking its toll. They were running out of options and time. Harper led the way to the cargo bay, her flashlight cutting through the dimness. The area was cluttered with supplies secured by magnetic locks, yet nothing appeared out of place. She knelt beside a junction box, prying it open to reveal tangled wires and circuits. The faint hissing sound grew louder here, confirming her suspicions. Somewhere nearby, oxygen was escaping into the void. She tapped a sensor onto the wall, watching as it transmitted data to her tablet. Meanwhile, Vega coordinated efforts from the bridge, cross-referencing Harper's findings with the ship's internal diagnostics. The problem wasn't localized. It spanned multiple sections of the vessel. Lynn joined Harper shortly after, carrying portable analyzers to measure gas composition. Together, they worked in silence, their movements precise and deliberate. Carter remained in the cockpit, monitoring oxygen levels and relaying updates to the others. Time was slipping away, and the more they uncovered, the more complex the issue became. It wasn't just a simple puncture or faulty seal. It was systemic, pervasive, and dangerously unpredictable. The investigation revealed troubling inconsistencies. Harper discovered irregularities in the ship's pressure sensors, suggesting tampering or malfunction. Lynn hypothesized that the carbon dioxide scrubbers might also be compromised, further exacerbating the oxygen depletion. Vega, poring over the ship's maintenance logs, noticed discrepancies in recent repair records. Someone or something had altered the data, concealing potential vulnerabilities. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their trust in the ship's systems shaken. Carter, tasked with monitoring external conditions, reported unusual fluctuations in solar radiation. Could the leak be linked to a cosmic event? Or was it the result of human error or sabotage? The possibilities swirled in their minds, adding to the growing sense of unease. With every passing moment, the stakes grew higher, and the margin for error narrower. As hours turned into minutes, the reality of their predicament sank in. Oxygen reserves were depleting faster than anticipated, forcing the crew to ration their movements and conserve energy. Harper's face glistened with sweat as she crawled through tight maintenance shafts, searching for the source of the leak. Every scrape of her tools echoed ominously in the confined space. Lynn stayed close, her medical bag slung over one shoulder, ready to administer oxygen masks if needed. Back on the bridge, Vega wrestled with conflicting emotions, fear for his crew's safety and frustration over their inability to pinpoint the problem. Carter, still inexperienced compared to the others, struggled to keep up with the barrage of information flooding his screen. His fingers flew across the keyboard, inputting commands and analyzing results, but the answers eluded him. The air inside the ship felt thinner now, harder to draw into their lungs. Fatigue crept in, slowing their reactions and clouding their thoughts. Despite their training, the stress of the situation was taking its toll. They were running out of options and time. The crew's exhaustion became palpable, their movements sluggish and labored. Harper paused briefly to catch her breath, leaning against a bulkhead as waves of dizziness washed over her. Lynn monitored her vitals, urging her to rest, but Harper shook her head stubbornly. There was no time for breaks. Vega, pacing anxiously in the cockpit, clenched his fists as he stared at the oxygen gauge. The needle continued its relentless descent, inching closer to the red zone. Carter, overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility, fought back tears as he recalibrated sensors for the umpteenth time. The ship's AI chimed in occasionally, offering automated suggestions that felt woefully inadequate. The crew ignored it, focusing instead on their own ingenuity and resilience. Yet, even as they pushed themselves to their limits, the specter of failure loomed large. Would they find a solution in time, or would their journey end here, swallowed by the infinite darkness? Just when despair threatened to overwhelm them, Harper spotted something unusual. Hidden behind a panel in the engineering bay was a hairline fracture in one of the primary oxygen tanks. The damage was subtle, almost invisible, but the implications were catastrophic. If the tank ruptured completely, it would mean instant death for everyone aboard. Working quickly, she patched the crack with emergency sealant, buying them precious minutes. However, the fix was temporary at best. The tank needed replacement, and the spare was stored in an external compartment exposed to the vacuum of space. Retrieving it would require a dangerous EVA maneuver, fraught with risks. Lynn volunteered immediately, knowing her medical expertise might be crucial during such a high-stakes operation. Harper objected fiercely, citing the dangers involved, but Lynn's resolve was unshakable. In the end, Vega made the call, trusting Lynn's judgment while silently praying she'd return safely. As Lynn suited up, the rest of the crew prepared for the worst, their hearts pounding in unison. The decision to send Lynn outside sparked a heated debate among the crew. Harper argued passionately for an alternative solution, pointing out the myriad dangers of exposing oneself to the vacuum. Vega listened intently, weighing the pros and cons before ultimately siding with Lynn. Carter, though hesitant, supported the plan, recognizing the urgency of the situation. As Lynn stepped into the airlock, the tension reached a fever pitch. Harper double-checked her suit, ensuring every seal was airtight. Lynn offered a reassuring smile, though her eyes betrayed her fear. The airlock hissed open, revealing the stark beauty of space. Stars twinkled endlessly beyond the ship's hull, indifferent to the drama unfolding within. Lynn stepped outside, tethered to the vessel by a slender cable. Her suit's helmet reflected the infinite darkness, masking her expression but not her determination. Every movement was deliberate, conserving both oxygen and energy. The external compartment housing the spare tank loomed ahead, its surface frosted from exposure to the cold vacuum. Reaching it required navigating around jagged protrusions and fragile antennae. One wrong move could send her drifting into oblivion. Inside the ship, Harper and Carter monitored Lynn's progress via cameras mounted on her suit. Vega paced anxiously, torn between offering guidance and letting her focus. Minutes stretched into eternity as Lynn worked to unlock the compartment. Finally, the hatch opened, revealing the gleaming cylinder inside. She secured it to her harness and began the arduous journey back. The relief was palpable when she re-entered the airlock, though the ordeal was far from over. The airlock hissed open, revealing the stark beauty of space. Stars twinkled endlessly beyond the ship's hull, indifferent to the drama unfolding within. Lynn stepped outside, tethered to the vessel by a slender cable. Her suit's helmet reflected the infinite darkness, masking her expression but not her determination. Every movement was deliberate, conserving both oxygen and energy. The external compartment housing the spare tank loomed ahead, its surface frosted from exposure to the cold vacuum. Reaching it required navigating around jagged protrusions and fragile antennae. One wrong move could send her drifting into oblivion. Inside the ship, Harper and Carter monitored Lynn's progress via cameras mounted on her suit. Vega paced anxiously, torn between offering guidance and letting her focus. Minutes stretched into eternity as Lynn worked to unlock the compartment. Finally, the hatch opened, revealing the gleaming cylinder inside. She secured it to her harness and began the arduous journey back. The relief was palpable when she re-entered the airlock, though the ordeal was far from over. Lynn's return brought a brief surge of hope, but the crew knew the real challenge lay ahead. Installing the new oxygen tank would require precision and teamwork under extreme pressure. Harper directed operations from the engineering bay, guiding Lynn and Carter as they maneuvered the heavy cylinder into place. Their movements were slow and deliberate, each step calculated to minimize risk. Vega coordinated from the bridge, ensuring communication remained clear and uninterrupted. Static occasionally crackled over the radio, a reminder of their isolation, but the crew pushed forward, united by a shared purpose. As Lynn tightened the final bolt, a collective breath was held. The system hummed to life, fresh oxygen flowing through the ship once more. For a fleeting moment, relief washed over them. But diagnostics revealed another alarming issue. The backup system responsible for recycling CO2 had malfunctioned. Without it, the newly restored supply wouldn't last long. The race against time continued. With the new oxygen tank safely aboard, the crew sprang into action. Harper directed operations from the engineering bay, guiding Lynn and Carter as they worked to install the replacement. The process was intricate, requiring precision and teamwork under immense pressure. Every second counted. The old tank was moments away from failure. Vega supervised from the bridge, ensuring coordination between departments and maintaining communication with Earth Command. Static crackled intermittently over the radio, a reminder of their isolation. Sweat dripped down Lynn's brow as she tightened bolts with trembling hands. Carter steadied the tank, his muscles straining against its weight. Harper's voice remained calm despite the chaos, issuing instructions with practiced efficiency. At last, the final connection clicked into place. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the ship as fresh oxygen began flowing once more. But their triumph was short-lived. Diagnostics revealed another alarming issue. The backup system responsible for recycling CO2 had malfunctioned. Without it, the newly restored supply wouldn't last long. Harper immediately turned her attention to the faulty scrubbers, her mind racing through possible solutions. Lynn assisted by manually adjusting valves to redirect airflow, temporarily mitigating the buildup of toxic gases. Carter, tasked with monitoring oxygen levels, relayed updates to the team in real time. Vega, ever the strategist, explored alternative methods to stabilize the environment. He considered rerouting power from non-essential systems to bolster the scrubbers, but the risk of destabilizing other critical functions loomed large. The crew worked tirelessly, their exhaustion evident in every movement. Yet, they refused to give up. Each member drew strength from the others, their bond forged in the crucible of adversity. Time was slipping away, but their resolve remained unshaken. They knew that survival depended not just on technical skill, but on their ability to adapt and persevere in the face of overwhelming odds. Faced with yet another crisis, the crew regrouped to assess the situation. Harper traced the fault to a corrupted software module controlling the carbon dioxide scrubbers. Someone, or something, had tampered with the code, introducing errors that rendered the system ineffective. Suspicion flared briefly among the crew, though none voiced their doubts aloud. Instead, they channeled their energy into finding a solution. Vega accessed archived files, searching for earlier versions of the program that could be reinstated. Lynn assisted by manually adjusting valves to redirect airflow, temporarily mitigating the buildup of toxic gases. Carter, still inexperienced compared to the others, struggled to keep up with the barrage of information flooding his screen. His fingers flew across the keyboard, inputting commands and analyzing results, but the answers eluded him. The air inside the ship felt thinner now, harder to draw into their lungs. Fatigue crept in, slowing their reactions and clouding their thoughts. Despite their training, the stress of the situation was taking its toll. They were running out of options and time. As Harper delved deeper into the corrupted code, she uncovered anomalies that defied explanation. Lines of programming had been altered in ways that suggested intent, a deliberate act of sabotage. The realization sent a chill through the crew. Who could have done this? And why? The EOS was a scientific vessel, not a military one. There were no enemies to speak of, no rival factions vying for control. Yet, the evidence pointed unmistakably to foul play. Vega, burdened by the weight of leadership, wrestled with the implications. If someone aboard the ship was responsible, trust, the foundation of their survival, was irreparably broken. Lynn, ever the optimist, urged caution, reminding the others that assumptions could lead to mistakes. Carter, overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation, sought solace in routine, focusing on tasks that required minimal thought. The crew pressed on, their unity tested but not yet shattered. Together, they vowed to uncover the truth, whatever it might be. The revelation of sabotage cast a pall over the ship, transforming allies into suspects. Harper, who had spent countless hours poring over the corrupted code, found herself questioning everyone, even those she trusted most. Could Vega, with his unparalleled access to the ship's systems, have orchestrated the breach? Or was Lynn, whose medical expertise included knowledge of life support systems, hiding something? Carter, though inexperienced, possessed technical skills that made him a potential candidate. Paranoia gnawed at the edges of their minds, threatening to unravel the fragile bonds holding them together. Yet, amidst the suspicion, they clung to their shared goal, survival. Harper focused on repairing the scrubbers, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she rewrote corrupted lines of code. Lynn monitored the crew's health, ensuring no one succumbed to fatigue or rising CO2 levels. Vega maintained communication with Earth Command, hoping for guidance or support. Carter, though shaken, redoubled his efforts, determined to prove his worth. Despite the tension, moments of camaraderie emerged. Harper and Lynn shared a quiet laugh after successfully rerouting a stubborn valve, their mutual relief breaking the oppressive silence. Vega, sensing the crew's fraying nerves, recounted stories from past missions, his voice steady and reassuring. Carter, inspired by their resilience, volunteered for menial tasks, freeing the others to focus on more critical issues. Slowly, the shadows of doubt began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. They were a team, bound by circumstance and duty. Whatever, or whoever, had caused the breach, they would face it together. The investigation continued, each discovery bringing them closer to the truth. As the crew worked to restore the scrubbers, they confronted the reality of their predicament. They couldn't afford division. Trust, though fragile, was essential for survival. Harper, realizing the corrosive effect of suspicion, called for a meeting in the common area. The room was dimly lit, the air thick with tension. She spoke first, her voice calm but firm. "We're stronger together," she said, her gaze sweeping across the group. "Pointing fingers won't fix the problem. We need to focus on what matters, getting home alive." Vega nodded in agreement, adding that accusations without evidence would only weaken their resolve. Lynn, ever the mediator, suggested pooling their knowledge to identify patterns or inconsistencies in the ship's logs. Carter, though shaken, redoubled his efforts, determined to prove his worth. Despite the tension, moments of camaraderie emerged. Harper and Lynn shared a quiet laugh after successfully rerouting a stubborn valve, their mutual relief breaking the oppressive silence. Vega, sensing the crew's fraying nerves, recounted stories from past missions, his voice steady and reassuring. Carter, inspired by their resilience, volunteered for menial tasks, freeing the others to focus on more critical issues. Slowly, the shadows of doubt began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. They were a team, bound by circumstance and duty. Whatever, or whoever, had caused the breach, they would face it together. The investigation continued, each discovery bringing them closer to the truth. Harper, now more focused than ever, delved deeper into the corrupted code, her eyes scanning lines of programming for anomalies. Lynn assisted by cross-referencing medical data with environmental readings, searching for correlations that might shed light on the sabotage. Vega reviewed security footage frame by frame, his patience unwavering despite the monotony of the task. Carter, eager to contribute meaningfully, analyzed power consumption logs, looking for spikes or irregularities that could indicate unauthorized activity. The collaborative effort yielded promising results. A recurring pattern of interference emerged, suggesting that the breaches were not random but part of a calculated plan. The revelation fueled their determination, driving them to uncover the identity of the saboteur before it was too late. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Carter, while reviewing archival footage, noticed a figure entering the engineering bay during off hours. The individual moved with purpose, pausing briefly near the oxygen tanks before disappearing from view. The timestamp matched the onset of the leak. Sharing the discovery with the others, Carter's voice trembled with a mix of excitement and dread. Harper, scrutinizing the footage, recognized the figure immediately, Ensign Carter himself. The revelation stunned the group, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. Carter, visibly shaken, stammered an explanation. He admitted to tampering with the system, not out of malice, but desperation. Overwhelmed by the pressures of the mission, he had attempted to trigger a minor malfunction, hoping to gain recognition for solving the problem. Instead, his actions spiraled out of control, endangering everyone aboard. The confession hung heavy in the air, testing the limits of forgiveness. Harper, furious but composed, demanded accountability. Vega, after a moment of reflection, reminded the crew of their shared humanity. "We've all made mistakes," he said, his tone measured. "What matters now is how we move forward." Lynn, ever compassionate, urged them to channel their anger into resolution. Carter, tears streaming down his face, vowed to make amends. Together, They devised a plan to address the remaining issues, leveraging Carter's technical skills to repair the damage he had caused. The incident served as a sobering reminder of the fragility of trust and the resilience required to rebuild it. As the initial shock wore off, the crew turned their attention back to the task at hand. Harper outlined a detailed strategy for repairing the scrubbers, assigning roles based on each member's strengths. Lynn monitored Carter closely, ensuring his emotional state remained stable while guiding him through complex procedures. Vega maintained communication with Earth Command, updating them on the situation and requesting additional support. The atmosphere aboard the EOS shifted subtly. The weight of betrayal lingered, but it no longer consumed them. Instead, they channeled their energy into survival, focusing on the steps needed to stabilize the ship and ensure their safe return. Carter threw himself into the repairs with a fervor born of guilt and redemption. Under Harper's watchful eye, he meticulously rewrote corrupted code, his hands steady despite the weight of his mistake. Lynn monitored his progress, offering guidance and encouragement. Vega, reassured by the crew's renewed unity, coordinated efforts from the bridge, ensuring resources were allocated efficiently. The atmosphere aboard the EOS shifted subtly, the tension giving way to a sense of purpose. Carter's actions, though initially destructive, became a catalyst for healing. His willingness to confront his error and contribute to the solution earned him a measure of forgiveness, though the scars of betrayal would take time to fade. As the scrubbers came back online, the crew allowed themselves a moment of respite. The air felt cleaner, easier to breathe, both literally and metaphorically. Harper, reflecting on the ordeal, marveled at the crew's ability to overcome adversity. Lynn, ever optimistic, expressed gratitude for their survival, crediting their resilience and teamwork. Vega, though weary, felt a renewed sense of pride in his team. Carter, humbled by the experience, vowed never to let fear or insecurity cloud his judgment again. The journey had tested them in ways they never imagined, but it had also strengthened their bond. Together, they had faced the abyss and emerged stronger. The hours that followed were a blur of activity. Harper conducted final checks on the life support systems, ensuring every component functioned optimally. Lynn prepared medical kits, anticipating potential complications during the return journey. Vega reviewed navigation protocols, plotting the safest course back to Earth. Carter, eager to prove his worth, volunteered for every task, no matter how small. His diligence earned him cautious approval from Harper, who acknowledged his growth with a rare smile. The crew's unity, once fractured, now stood as a testament to their collective strength. Though the scars of the past remained, they had forged something unbreakable in its place. With the life support system stabilized, the crew turned their attention to the broader implications of the breach. Vega initiated contact with Earth Command, providing a detailed report of the incident. Static crackled over the transmission, but the message was received. Relief flooded the crew as they listened to the response. A rescue vessel was en route, though it would take days to reach their position. In the meantime, they focused on ensuring the ship's integrity, conducting thorough inspections and reinforcing vulnerable areas. Harper led the effort, her expertise invaluable in identifying potential weaknesses. Lynn, drawing on her medical training, implemented measures to mitigate the effects of prolonged stress. Carter, eager to prove his worth, volunteered for every task, no matter how mundane. Vega, overseeing operations, maintained a steady presence, offering guidance and reassurance. The days passed slowly, each hour stretching into eternity. The crew's spirits wavered at times, exhaustion and uncertainty taking their toll. Yet, they persevered, buoyed by the knowledge that help was on the way. Harper's humor lightened the mood during tense moments, while Lynn's compassion provided comfort in times of despair. Vega's leadership inspired confidence, even in the darkest hours. Carter, though haunted by his actions, found solace in the crew's acceptance. Together, they weathered the storm, their unity a testament to the strength of the human spirit. As the rescue vessel approached, the crew prepared for docking procedures. Harper double-checked the airlock seals, ensuring they were airtight. Lynn inventoried medical supplies, ready to assist the rescuers if needed. Vega coordinated communications, relaying vital information to the incoming ship. Carter, standing by the viewport, watched as the sleek silhouette of the rescue craft grew larger against the backdrop of stars. For the first time in days, hope filled the air, tangible and real. The nightmare was ending, and they were going home. The rescue vessel arrived sooner than expected, its sleek silhouette emerging from the void like a beacon of hope. The crew of the EOS Dash, though battered and bruised, greeted their saviors with gratitude and relief. Supplies were transferred, systems were inspected, and plans were made for the journey home. As the two ships prepared to dock, Vega addressed his crew one final time. "We've been through hell," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But we survived because we trusted each other, even when it was hard. Remember that." The journey back to Earth was uneventful compared to the trials they had endured. Harper spent much of the time documenting the incident, compiling a report for future missions. Lynn reflected on the psychological toll of the ordeal, vowing to advocate for better mental health support for space crews. Carter, though still grappling with guilt, found solace in the forgiveness extended to him. Vega, ever the leader, ensured his team remained focused on recovery and reflection. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, the familiar blue-green orb filling the viewport, the crew felt a profound sense of gratitude for life, for each other, and for the lessons learned in the vast emptiness of space. Upon landing, the crew was met with cheers and applause from Mission Control and their families. Reporters clamored for interviews, eager to hear the harrowing tale of survival. But the crew declined, choosing instead to process their experience privately. They gathered in a quiet conference room, sharing stories and memories, laughing at moments of absurdity and crying over the weight of what they had endured. It was here, in this intimate setting, that they truly began to heal. Harper recounted the initial discovery of the leak, her voice tinged with both frustration and pride as she described the painstaking process of identifying the breach. Lynn spoke of the emotional toll, admitting how close she had come to despair, but emphasizing the importance of perseverance. Carter, though hesitant at first, opened up about his role in the sabotage, expressing remorse but also gratitude for the second chance he had been given. Vega listened intently, offering words of encouragement and reminding them of their shared humanity. These moments of vulnerability strengthened their bond, transforming them from mere colleagues into lifelong friends. As the days passed, the crew began to reintegrate into their lives on Earth. Harper threw herself into her work, channeling her experiences into innovations that would make space travel safer for future generations. Lynn immersed herself in research, collaborating with psychologists and engineers to develop comprehensive support systems for astronauts. Carter, inspired by the crew's forgiveness, dedicated himself to mentoring young engineers, instilling in them the values of accountability and teamwork. Vega, though retired from active duty, remained a guiding figure, sharing his wisdom with those who sought to follow in his footsteps. Back on Earth, the crew of the EOS became legends, their story told and retold in classrooms, documentaries, and mission briefings. Their ordeal served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life in space and the resilience required to endure it. Harper returned to engineering, her reputation bolstered by her role in saving the crew. She became an advocate for improved safety protocols, working tirelessly to ensure no future mission would face the same vulnerabilities. Her innovations in spacecraft design earned her accolades, but she remained humble, often crediting her teammates for her success. Lynn dedicated herself to researching the psychological effects of long-term space travel, publishing groundbreaking studies that influenced future missions. Her work highlighted the importance of mental health support and fostered a culture of openness and communication among astronauts. She also spearheaded initiatives to train medical officers in crisis management, ensuring they were equipped to handle both physical and emotional challenges. Lynn's efforts led to the implementation of mandatory psychological evaluations for all space missions, a policy that saved countless lives in the years to come. Carter, forever changed by his mistakes, found redemption in teaching. He became a mentor to aspiring engineers, sharing his experiences to inspire caution and humility. His lectures emphasized the importance of teamwork and accountability, urging young minds to learn from failure rather than fear it. Though he carried the weight of his actions, he found peace in knowing he had contributed to preventing similar incidents. Carter's story became a cornerstone of ethics training programs, reminding future astronauts of the consequences of unchecked ambition. Vega retired from active duty, becoming a mentor to aspiring astronauts, instilling in them the values of leadership and unity. His memoirs, detailing the events aboard the EOS Dash, became required reading for cadets entering the space program. Vega's insights into decision-making under pressure and the importance of trust in high-stakes environments shaped the next generation of explorers. He often said, "Space is unforgiving, but humanity is resilient. Together, we can overcome anything." The legacy of the EOS crew extended far beyond their individual achievements. Their story inspired millions, proving that even in the darkest moments, hope and determination could prevail. Humanity's exploration of the cosmos continued, driven by the same curiosity and courage that had propelled the EOS into the unknown. And as new generations ventured beyond Earth's bounds, they carried with them the lessons of those who had come before, lessons of resilience, unity, and the unbreakable human spirit. As the credits roll on this incredible tale, remember that the universe is vast and full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. But the greatest journeys are not just about reaching new frontiers, they're about the people who stand beside us along the way. If you enjoyed this story of survival and sacrifice, don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and join us as we continue to explore the infinite possibilities of the cosmos. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep reaching for the stars.